Good morning. And a happy new year to you. I'm Abhi Janamanchi, one of the ministers serving this religious community, and I welcome you on this beautiful, gorgeous, cold day to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church, a religious community where love works. Our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and to build a more just world. And here together we dare to embody Dr. King's vision of the beloved community. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, whatever your beliefs, life circumstance, gender identity, or immigration status, you are welcome here.
A special welcome to those joining our service online, whether in the moment or catching up with us later. We're glad to have you with us. If you are new to Cedar Lane, we have a small gift for you. Please raise your hand if you're comfortable so our ushers can find you. All are invited to stay after the service to enjoy coffee and conversation. If visitors choose to use a yellow mug, our members and friends will be sure to greet you.
In a moment, we'll turn and greet our neighbors, but before we do that, I draw your attention to the announcements page in your order of celebration, which contains information about upcoming events, and I'd just like to highlight just a few.
Please join us this evening at 7 p.m. for an evening forum with Senator Chris Van Hollen. Childcare will be provided, and please consider parking on the street to allow room for our guests in our parking lot. Our lay pastoral visitors work closely with the ministers to support the pastoral ministry of our congregation. If you have a pastoral need or concern, Ann Meyer will be available by the Joys and Sorrows candles after the service.
Our Immigrant Justice Ministry team is helping to organize a newly formed and rapidly growing county-wide coalition of social justice organizations that is going to be requesting County Executive Ike Leggett to include in the upcoming county budget a legal defense fund, some funds for a legal defense fund that would go to support immigrant residents who are facing the threat of deportation, who are not entitled to court-appointed counsel. So this forum is happening tomorrow night at Bethesda Regional Service Center from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Our Cedar Lane member Diane Seifert will be representing the coalition's request at the budget forum. So the ask is if some of you would consider joining Diane and other Cedar Lane members to show your support and show up with signs in support. So if you would like to go, please stop by the table, the Immigrant Justice table in the lounge after the service for both the address and directions as well as the opportunity to make a few signs. Also, coming up next weekend, Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock is our next Spirit Experience, which will be an interfaith service celebrating the life and prophetic legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We'll be treated to some inspiring reflections by Imam Tariq El-Gawari, the Reverend Dr. Felicia Adams, and also the Rabbi Yafira Sultan, who will be offering some reflections and some amazing music by Fred Johnson and Romero Wyatt, who is a Bethesda native, and visiting Israeli percussionist Roni Parnas. Roni will also be offering a drumming circle on Saturday at 3 p.m. to which all are welcome. Information is in your order of celebration. And last but not least, a special note about a special program that continues to support and grow Unitarian Universalism, the Chalice Lighters program, which came into being many years ago by a group of passionate UUs who were committed to figuring out ways to supporting our small congregations and fellowships to be able to do the work of growing our faith and sharing the good news of Unitarian Universalism. And this is a nationwide program, but it's especially been very meaningful in the work that it has done here in the Central East region. You have an insert in your order of celebration that has more information about the Chalice Lighters program. The Chalice Lighters especially organize new congregations, and the latest being the UUs of Central Delaware in Dover, Delaware, and the UU Church of the Shenandoah Valley. Now, the oldest one is the UU congregation of South Jersey Shores, which now has its own building across from Stockton University. Now, over the years, over 140 Cedar Laners have supported Chalice Lighters. So if you're one of them, would you please rise and take a bow for your support? So, at the end of the service, we will be, oh my, I'm so overcome with emotion about Chalice Lighters. We will be taking a special moment during the postlude for the song specially composed by Bill Williams. Bill, are you here? Oh. About a hymn to celebrate the doers for those who may be inspired to support the Chalice Lighter program. And with that, we will turn and greet our neighbor,
especially newcomers and guests.
Let us center ourselves. Let us center ourselves with yet another announcement about UU 101, which will be happening right after the second service in the library. For those who wish to know more about Unitarian Universalism or need a refresher about it, you're all welcome to join us. But let us center ourselves in worship with these words from my colleague, the Reverend Natalie Fenimore. We are all called.
Called by the wind, the rushing water, the fireflies, the summer sun.
Called by the sidewalk, the playground, the laughing children, and the street lights.
Called by our appetites and gifts, our needs and challenges.
Called by the spirit of love and hope and visions of God's purpose for our lives, we are all called.
What will we choose? How will we answer?
Let us answer with the yes of our lives. Come, let us worship together.
As Ed and Joanna Delahaye kindle our chalice, symbol of our shared faith, please rise in body and or in spirit to share the chalice lighting words in your order of celebration. We kindle the chalice on the brink of a new year, letting go of what has been, open and hopeful for what may come, renewed, restored, ready to live life fully anew. May we move forward with intention. Please remain as you are to sing hymn number 350, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time in your great hymnal. Each time we gather for worship, we set aside time to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. We gather not for our needs alone, but to bear witness to the joys, sorrows, and milestones that unfold in all our lives, and to serve as companions to one another throughout these profound journeys of faith. We gather to build the beloved community where all souls are welcome and lives are rendered whole and reconciled. Our hearts are with those for whom parenting is a primary spiritual practice. We hold in our circle of caring those who live with grief or chronic pain, with illnesses seen and unseen, with mental illnesses or addictions, those who have suffered abuse, and those who care for family members in ill health. We hold in our hearts and prayers Emily and Ellis Holden-Reed. Emily has completed her chemo and is back home. We continue to hold in our hearts all whose lives are lost and whose loved ones' lives are lost and impacted by violence and calamities in our world. We lift up and hold in our hearts Kabul, where there was a suicide bomb attack, and the political protesters in Iran who were shot at by their government. May these friends of ours, our companions in the world, and all that lives unspoken in our hearts, be held in the embrace of prayer and silence.
I invite us to center ourselves now for a time, letting our mind, body, and spirit come into easy alignment with our breathing rhythms. And as we go deeper within to that place of silence and honesty, courage and love, may we continue to hold Emily and Ellis Holden-Reed the many who continue to protest for freedom in Iran, and the many families impacted by the bomb attack, and those affected by this winter storm across the country, seeking warmth and shelter. May we hold them all as we center ourselves, finding a relaxed, comfortable position. Keep your back upright, but not too tight. Rest your hands and feet wherever they are comfortable. Gently close your eyes if you're comfortable, and let yourself relax. Relax any areas of tightness or tension that you feel in your body, around your shoulders, neck, hands. Soften. Soften your body, your face, your spirit. And now begin to tune into your breath in your body. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And as you breathe in and breathe out, join as your spirit moves you as we sing. Breathe in. Breathe out.
Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out.
Feeling the natural flow of breath in and out, in and out. There's no need to do anything to your breath, not long, not short, just natural. Keep breathing. Find the peace of just being with the flow of your breath, letting go of yesterday and tomorrow. Feel the restorative power of this moment. Feel the peace within. A peace large enough to open to the sorrows and concerns that vex our spirits. A stillness quiet enough to respond to the joys and celebrations that enliven us. All the while, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in peace, breathe out love.
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
There is safety here, the rhythm of the breath. The ebb and flow of life is lived out with each breath. Taking in the fullness of experience, let go of the residue that wants to cling to us. Breathe in ease, breathe out calm. Cultivate inner peace and inner safety in the sanctuary of serenity and simple beauty. Feel peace enter and fill you completely. Feel love flow through you and from you. Become peace. Become love. Become preparing to enter the silence that nourishes us, breathing in peace and breathing out love, I invite those who are mourning the loss of a loved one or marking the anniversary of the loss of a loved one to rise in body and or in spirit. Let us enter the silence together. May all be well, may all be healthy, may all be happy, may all be peaceful, and may no one suffer. May there be peace within, peace in the community, and peace in the world. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So may it be. Blessed be. Thank you. Our reading this morning is from Belgian-born American poet May Sarton, and it's a poem that speaks to the path of becoming our true selves. It's called Now I Become Myself. Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces, run madly as if time were there, terribly old, crying a warning. Hurry, you will be dead before what? Before you reach the morning? Or the end of the poem is clear? Or love safe in the walled city? Now, to stand still, to be here, feel my own weight and destiny. The black shadow on the paper is my hand, the shadow of a word as thought shapes the shaper, falls heavy on the page, is heard. All fuses now, falls into place from wish to action, word to silence. My work, my love, my time, my face, gathered into one intense gesture of growing like a plant. As slowly as the ripening fruit, fertile, detached, and always spent, falls but does not exhaust the root, so all the poem is, can give, grows in me to become the song, made so and rooted by love. Now there is time, and time is young. Oh, in this single hour I live all of myself and do not move. I, the pursued who madly ran, stand still, and stop the sun. Thus concludes the reading. Thank you, members of the choir, Henry and Jasmin, for that beautiful anthem celebrating the spirit and the memory of our beloved members, Jay and Arlene Schneider. What a wonderful way for us to begin this new year. And thank you for your music ministry this morning. And as we bid you fond farewell, I would like to engage the rest of you with a few things regarding New Year's resolutions, something that I have struggled with over the years and both making and breaking them quite consistently. So I found out that recently that a New Year's resolution is something that goes in one year and out the other. Those are for my fellow punsters. And Melanie White says, this New Year's I'm going to make a resolution I can keep. No dieting all year long. I think I can get with that. If you make a New Year's resolution to eat a healthy diet and you keep it, you won't actually live longer, but it will seem longer. Humorist Greg Tamblyn. And this last one again from Melanie White, who says, this New Year's I resolve to lead a better life. Now all I have to do is find someone who will trade lives with me. That's a good one, given we are discussing intention and living a life of authenticity and integrity and living true to our essential selves, which is the theme we will be exploring not just this Sunday but all month as our Soul Matters theme, as to what it means to live a life of intention. To live with mindfulness about who we wish to be, who we are called to be, the values and convictions we wish to embody in our lives as individuals and also as a religious community. To discover our authentic selves and let that shine, or as the poet says, to become myself. Now, in the book of Ezekiel, there is a famous story of the dry bones, which you may be familiar with. This is the story where the prophet Ezekiel is set down by God in the midst of a valley filled with dry bones. And God asks Ezekiel, can these bones live? And then commands him to prophesy to the dry bones that God will cause the Spirit to enter into those bones and they shall live. Now Ezekiel prophesies as commanded, and beholds a rattling, and the bones came together, bone unto bone, and there were sinews on them, and flesh had come upon them, and skin had covered them, but there was no breath in them. Then God commands Ezekiel to prophesy to the breath, which he does, and the bones come alive. And the story concludes with God saying, these bones are the house of Israel. Tell them, I will raise you from your graves and settle you on your soil, place you in your own land, and you shall live. Now, in case you are wondering and a bit concerned now that what on earth is going on the first Sunday in the new year, starting off with a biblical passage that sounds rather apocalyptic in some ways, not to mention wondering if somehow I am endorsing President Trump's recent announcement of making Jerusalem the official place where the American embassy would be situated, or worse, proposing a one-state solution. My friends, it's none of these. So relax. We're not going in that direction today. The question that I am interested in, that I wish to explore in the context of living a life of intention, is, can these bones live? Is there any way in which we can say meaningfully that any bones, any lives transcend the ultimate horizon of death? Well, when the late Václav Havel was inaugurated as president of the Czech Republic, he addressed this question very directly. He said, "My program is to bring spirituality, moral responsibility, humaneness, and humility into politics, and in that respect, to make clear that our deeds do not disappear into the dark hole of time." What a remarkable thing for anyone to say, much less a would-be politician. Because these days we are more used to politicians saying stupid things than wise ones. So Havel's wise words came as a surprise when I first heard them, and continue to surprise me, and how fervently I would guess we would all hope and pray what he said is indeed true. That spirituality, moral responsibility, humility, and humaneness might indeed ensure that our deeds not disappear into the dark hole of time. So are we, in other words, saved through history, through our human acts, as Havel would have it, or beyond it, or not at all? Well, my friends, I would not pretend to tell you whether or not you are saved. That's not how we operate. But I think I do know what rescues us from the dark hole of time. "I will put my spirit unto you," God says to the Israelites. There are two ways to be rescued from the dark hole of time, I submit. One is to live a life of mindfulness and intention. The other is to give one's life to something larger, something which transcends life. Now, every single one of us, I think, at one time or another, has asked ourselves, what are we doing here? What direction our lives will take from here? What passions will seize us? What fidelities will claim us? And whether anything we do will escape the dark hole of time. Now, some people, of course, make a name for themselves, become really famous, which in and of itself guarantees them transport beyond the abyss of time. But the vast majority of us are not so famous, and no matter how hard we try, how much we accomplish, how much we accumulate, how much we be praised, in the last analysis, we all die and become dust. The way to judge the value of a life is not so much by its reputation or its longevity or even its achievements as by its present quality. Something for us to keep in mind. By the keenness of our sensibilities, the curiosity of our spirits, the engagement of our minds, the work of our hands, or the many ways in which our hearts have gladdened other lives. In other words, the first of the two ways I know to save ourselves from the abyss of time is namely by our mindfulness and intention. Now, dance provides a metaphor for what I am saying. I'm no dancer, but in what I have seen and experienced, I realize that dance is not a static thing, because everyone who dances, whether in step or out of step, is creating it virtually afresh. And in this sense, dance is always disappearing before our very eyes. It is not something we can save for the ages, only celebrate, experience, see it in the moment. Now, I know no better example of doing that than a little story that was told by Richard Seltzer, a medical surgeon, that the Reverend Dr. Bill Schultz once shared in his sermon. Seltzer writes, "I stand by the bed where a young woman lies. Her mouth is twisted in palsy. In order to remove the tumor in her cheek, I had to cut that little nerve. Now her young husband is in the room, and together they seem to dwell in the evening lamplight, isolated from me, private. All at once the young woman speaks. 'Will my mouth always be like this?' she asks. 'Yes,' I reply, 'it will. It is because the nerve was cut.' She nods and is silent, but the young man then speaks, her husband. 'I like it,' he says. 'It's kind of cute.' Now, unmindful of me," Seltzer continues, "he bends to kiss her crooked mouth. And I'm so close to them, I see how he twists his own mouth to accommodate to hers, to show her that their kiss still works. I remember that the gods appeared in ancient Greece as mortals, and I pause to let the wonder in." I pause to let the wonder in. "I will put my spirit in you," said God to Ezekiel, "and you shall live." And then it is also true that every single one of us at one time or another, reflecting upon the lives we have lived or sought to live, have asked ourselves whether what we have done with our lives has been worthy of our aspirations, whether our stories are worth passing on to the next generation, whether our journeys will in any sense escape the dark hole of time, or whether the lives we lived are actually ours or someone else's. In this regard, I'm reminded of a story that Quaker philosopher Parker Palmer tells in his little book, Let Your Life Speak. It's a Hasidic story about Rabbi Zusia, who said to his disciples, "In the world to come, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' Instead, they will ask, 'Why were you not Zusia?'" Palmer goes on to say, "It is a strange gift, this birthright gift of self. Accepting it turns out to be even more demanding than attempting to become someone else." Or as the poet says, "I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces, run madly as if time were there." Now, how many of us resonate with the experience of having worn other people's faces, worn other masks, tried other people's lives, tried on different roles, or the idea that it has taken time to become ourselves? Because getting to our authentic selves begins by stopping all this running, the race against time to achieve the most, to be the best, to save the world, to pause to ask ourselves, what are we running away from? What this also means, I think, is that we ought to value our lives, not by the legacies we leave, for they will inevitably be forgotten, not by the tasks we accomplish, for they will eventually fade away, not by the wealth we accumulate or the honors, but by the measure with which we live with integrity and tenderness and compassion, to be our essential selves and giving ourselves to the world, to a cause larger than our own, to a life much larger than our own, and spending ourselves for others. I will settle you on your own soil, said God. I will, in other words, give you something larger than yourselves to which to devote your lives. And that is the second way I know that we can live a life of intention, by giving of ourselves to a larger life, to a larger creation, to a larger love, to a larger cause, to an institution, to our religious community, to another person, to a garden. Because the most important thing is not that we be well known, but that we be known well. Not that we gather riches, but that in the words of the poet Wendell Berry, we work and rest kindly in the presence of the world. Excuse me. Now, some years ago, the late Ed Bradley of 60 Minutes visited the Vietnam Memorial and came across a note propped up against the long black wall. This is what the note said. Hi, lover. I came back to say hello. I went ahead and married Dick, and we have a wonderful little girl. Her favorite color is purple, the color of this stationery. I went to Arlington National Cemetery to see your grave, and on it, it said you got a purple heart for dying. Well, this is your purple heart for having lived. I hope our daughter has as beautiful and as wonderful a first love for her as you were for me. Goodbye. Hello, Nancy. Now, every human being in the world deserves the opportunity to earn a purple heart for living. Nancy gave her lover one, gave his life a larger purpose even after he had lost it. So you can never tell when some small gesture, some casual kindness, some licked envelope, or some sent email may actually change or transform another person's life. So, spirituality, moral responsibility, humaneness, and humility. Are these indeed what rescue our deeds from the dark hole of time? Every single one of us, of course, will slip eventually into that abyss, but to have lived with intention and passion, with joy, loving and gladdening the hearts of others, having given oneself to a larger purpose, working and resting kindly in the presence of the world, will be to slip into it not with fear and trembling, not with that, not with regret and guilt and hope, or rage, not with that, but with trust and calm and gratitude, loving even the depths, embracing the clean, still, deep darkness, and knowing that, thanks to lives well spent, these bones shall live, will live. So may it be. Amen. I now invite the ushers to come forward to give and receive an offering to sustain the mission and ministry of Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. And as we give and receive this offering, I invite you to reflect on what it means to live a life of intention, both within our own lives and together as a beloved community. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
For the gifts which we have received, may we be grateful. May we be committed to using those gifts to share with the world, to increase love and justice, to expand beloved community, and to be grateful and glad for every blessing that comes our way. Please rise in body and or in spirit to sing together, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, hymn number 126 in your gray hymnal.
Please remain as you are for these closing words. May we see all as it is, and may it all be as we see it. May we be the ones to make it as it should be, for if not us, who? If not now, when? This is the answering cry of justice with the work of peace. This is the redeeming pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to be and do, and this is the call we answer now. To be the barrier and the bridge, to be the living embodiment of our principles, to be about the work of building the beloved community, to be a people of intention and a people of conscience. So may it be. As we seat ourselves for the postlude, I invite John Gubbings to share a few words about the Chalice Lighter program.
I've been on the Chalice Lighter Grant Giving Committee for 16 or 17 years now, and I've talked to and heard from many ministers and congregational leaders about what it's meant to their congregations when they've received a Chalice Lighter grant, when they stretched to hire their first minister or their director of religious education, bought a piece of land, or put a down payment on a building. These grants are made possible by thousands of people like you giving $20 3 times a year for the grant giving sessions of the committee. It enables grants of $20,000 3 times a year that have helped hundreds of congregations in our region. So if you've seen or looked through that insert in your program that includes a form for committing to providing that $20 3 times a year to the Chalice Lighters You can fill it out now and put it in the basket as the postlude is sung, and light a candle to symbolize the flame that you're helping burn brighter.
My best intentions just don't seem enough. The world all about me demands something more. Justice isn't much of, it's just in my head. So my heart tells my feet to get out on the street. So I show up to speak out, to act up, even stand in the way. Pain gets me thinking, says who? I'll be there. I hope you're there too. I don't lay odds or make idle predictions. I'm best when I act on my strongest convictions. Wish me a good wish, I wish you one too. We'll set out together to make them come true, and we'll stand up, put arms out, embrace those who've been left by the way. Faith has us given what we can provide. I know you'll be there, right at my side. Can't see a thing if you don't lift your head up. Follow your nose with the utmost persistence, a most human relation. Whole congregation, hand in hand through the dawn, till there's light in the distance. With luck we may gather and share a few stories of failure, success, best intentions come true. Not for a mention, headline of glory, just for those we could serve, whether many or few. So I'll show up to speak out, to act up,